What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag, and this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 4, Episode 3, and it's called Chapter 60, Dog Day Afternoon. This episode, I am joined by a special guest who has stepped in for NB this week. He runs his own Riverdale podcast called Rethinking Riverdale. He's a good friend of our podcast, Postmaster Radio. Welcome to Recap Rewind.
Well, hello everyone. J-Lag, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. And guys, don't forget to stay tuned until the very end for recap roundups, our MVPs, our LVPs, our best and WTF moments and best lines. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Just as an FYI, we also have a contest going on right now. So if you leave a review for us at Recap Rewind on iTunes, you'll enter into a contest for a chance to win $50 gift certificate and a pop socket. So to enter, all you need to do is just rate and comment on our iTunes page and you will be entered in the draw. The contest ends December 11th, so make sure you guys check that out. As always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the episode, y'all.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so Postmaster, what did you think of the episode on a general level?
You know what? It was actually a really good episode, and not just for the fact that the farm storyline is finally done at last.
I know, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm honestly very relieved about that. But I guess everyone
for sure
just about really nailed the episode, honestly. You, J-Lag?
Yeah. I think I really like the episode as well. I think that I agree with you 100%. I'm so glad that they got rid of that farm storyline. I'm glad to have Alice back in the fold. And I'm just interested to see if there is any more residual stuff coming from the farm, or is this done? And we can just move forward, move on with our lives. I'm still a little bit iffy about Polly and what she's going to be doing. But outside of her, I'm happy with how things kind of concluded. It is interesting. Anyway, we can talk about it a little bit later. But
yeah, of course.
Even characters like Evelyn, wondering if that's going to be a situation that is going to come back at all, or is it just complete and finished? I know that RAS had mentioned that by episode 3, the farm storyline was going to be finished. So
yeah, true.
That is what happened.
Yeah, so maybe they'll just leave it there. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
So before we get into the full episode and break it down, I wanted to mention the title of the episode, which is Dog Day Afternoon. As you know, Riverdale likes to do kind of throwbacks to actual films in real life. So this one is called Dog Day Afternoon, which is also the title of the same name from a 1975 American neo-noir crime drama starring Al Pacino, where there is a hostage scenario. So they probably picked up a little bit of that vibe from that movie, because obviously there is a bomb involved this episode, which is kind of crazy.
Very crazy, yeah.
So we'll take it right from the top. We'll start from the very beginning. It starts off with Monroe, and I guess now I feel a little bit more comfortable because they completely stopped calling him Mad Dog, so I'm okay with calling him Monroe now.
I mean, of course, Monroe's really a good name. I don't know why, I just got so used to calling him Mad Dog.
I know. I agree. I think that it's definitely going to be a hard habit to break, but
yeah.
I think I was okay with it this episode.
No, I mean, like, I'm fine with the name change. It was finally nice to get to know his real name, but again, it's just going to take some getting used to.
For sure. So Monroe and Archie are boxing, and essentially the first thing that Monroe says, and this is kind of his storyline this episode, is Monroe's really worried about his brother. His brother is still living in a shady area, and he pushes Archie to start this community center this episode. He's like, okay, are we doing this? What are we doing? And Archie starts to think about, how he's going to get there and what he needs to get there. So that's how the first scene starts. The next scene shows Jughead moving into his dorm room.
Oh, I love
which
this
was kind of
one.
cute.
Yeah,
that was adorable. We get a really adorable Bughead moment where, it's everybody. FP comes with Jellybean, but also Betty comes and she kind of sends him off. She reassures him that this is the right decision, and it was really cute. Obviously, all the Bughead shippers are living right now. They're so happy with what they saw there. And then it moves to the Andrews residence right away, where we have Archie and Veronica just talking. She mentions to him that since last episode, she decides that she doesn't want to change her name to Gomez.
But why?
Because it didn't feel right.
God.
I mean, here's the thing. You're a comic book reader, right?
Oh, sorry.
So, like, you're a comic book reader, so you kind of know that, you know, the name Veronica Lodge is so iconic.
Of course, yeah.
Hearing her say Veronica Gomez was kind of weird to me. I get that she wants to kind of change her name. So,
no, like, I
even
still
when she
kind of
brought
get
it
it
up,
because in the Riverdale thing, Lodge is sort of like a tainted, crappy, bullshitty name. So I can understand it in that context. But
right.
Again, I just don't understand why she didn't go through it. Sorry, why she...
I know.
You know, yeah.
And right before school, I think they decide to have a little sexy time. So that was obviously implied.
Love this one.
As usual. Yeah, I feel like they're still that sexually driven couple, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's true.
So then it cuts back to the dorm room, and Jughead meets his new roommate.
Marmaduke. Moose is back.
Moose is back. So what did you think about the fact that Moose is back in the fold and how he kind of came back in?
I thought it was actually fine. I did think at first that maybe this wouldn't be, like, it wouldn't really last long, but hearing about everything that happened with him, like, especially going through that transition, finding out that his dad was the GK, I don't even want to say the full name anymore. Yeah, but it's basically a good fresh start for Moose now, and I think he's really happy there, or at least at the time he was. We'll come back to that later near the end, but yeah, it's a good change for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little bit surprised that he was going to come back into the show so quickly. And, you know, knowing that he had a romantic connection with Kevin, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they try to resurface that back in, because they did leave things off on a pretty high note with the both of them in their relationship last season. So now that he's coming back into the show, I'm interested to see if that's going to happen. And are we going to call him Marmaduke now? There's a lot of name changes this episode.
So many name changes.
Yeah. So he does mention one thing that I guess carries throughout the rest of the episode, where the character Brett, which is the guy that we met, I think in episode 2, he's shady. And he says to Jughead, you know, just watch out for Brett. He's really weird and don't trust him, basically.
No.
And then it cuts to Monroe again talking about the community center and wanting to build it up, and his Archie's mom, and she always has these like extra sidekick ladies that she has on her roster.
I know, so this is
right? I've never met this girl, right? Like, you've never seen her before.
No,
just to
not
confirm
at all.
that we've never seen this character before. But she seems to have this whole, like, roster of random people that can help her out. And I'm like, that's amazing that she has all these amazing connections. But, like, who are you?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we didn't learn that much about Mary Andrews, like, in past episodes. I kind of honestly... I know this is going back to season 3 quickly, but just a quick side note. I kind of wish that the Midnight Club episode had kind of addressed some sort of backstory, even if a minor one for Mary Andrews at least, just to know where the hell those people, or like whatever, just a little more.
I 100% agree. I definitely agree with you. I wish that they at least included her as a part of the involvement, even if they had her, because, you know, we even got a young Hal at the end of last season, like, you know, at the end of the flashback episode, he wasn't a part of that scene at all, and so, or like he wasn't a part of like the main Midnight Club at all. So for them not to even mention or even have an actress come in to show that, you know, Fred moves on and meets Mary makes me wonder, was she even in that high school? Are they, because there was, you know, in older episodes, there was a known fact that Mary had like a rivalry between her and Hermione because they went to the same high school. They were always fighting over Fred from the beginning. So it's interesting that they didn't include her at all. So yeah, I agree. We don't really know much about Mary, but now that Fred is gone officially, maybe we'll get that this season.
Oh yeah, we have to. We have to for sure. The time is now.
Yes, agreed. So Archie's mom comes in and she basically says that, you know, her lawyer friend suggests all these things. She says, if you want to make this a real community center, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You have to add a new bathroom, and this is how much it's going to cost. It's going to be this much money. So it starts to become more real of a situation, which I kind of liked, because I think that in Riverdale, especially, in terms of the show, I feel like there's some things that they do really, really fast sometimes. And I'm like, how do they whip that all up together really quickly? But it seems that the community center storyline is going to be like a bit of a slow burn. He's got to figure out, the remodeling of the community center. Then he's got to figure out.
You can't just wrap this up in one episode. So they obviously, this has to be like a thing for maybe at least half of the season, if not the full season, then at least a halfway. But yeah, they definitely need a lot more time with this one. And
I want to say that it's going to keep Archie out of trouble, but clearly it doesn't keep him out of trouble this episode.
No. If only it did.
So let's move. I know, right?
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next scene, which is Charles and Betty, and they are kind of doing their own little FBI in a weird small room, and they start to figure out where the the group is, because Kevin had told them where they're staying, and he says something along the lines of we're going to try to infiltrate it. We have a spy who's going to come in and pretend to be a pizza guy and listen in on the call.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that whole situation and how it all kind of began?
It was fine. Like, whatever Charles is doing, it's fine. But, it's tough. I don't want to say this because I don't like the dude at all, no matter how good looking he may be to some. But, eventually, the whole pizza guy infiltration thing, it unfortunately fails. And the guy's just basically shot. And then Edgar's like, why are you using a wire? You're usually more clever than that. I hate to agree with Edgar, but he kind of has a point there. You would think Charles would be a little smarter than that.
100%. He's supposed to be working for the FBI. These guys are supposed to be the top notch of the top notch. Like, that sounds like something that Cheryl and, Betty tried to do last season when they tried to infiltrate the farm. So,
you would think he would know better, but nope.
Yes. Nope. An amateur move for sure. But anyway, so on the microphone, he talks to Charles directly, and he says, Charles, like you said, you're being super sloppy. You have to meet my demands now. And he starts to call all these different things, but he doesn't do that until a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. So the next scene is Cheryl and Tony, and they're in bed, and they're just, having a little cute CHONI moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. CHONI scene aside, that was a really nice little bit there, but the rest of that scene, I still can't get it out of my head. I'm still thinking, what the F?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my God.
So they hear a noise, they hear a scream downstairs, and they both go downstairs, and Nana Rose is standing by the fire, and she's just kind of going cray-cray. Like, she's like, what's going on? And they go down. So she confronts her. She taps her on the shoulder, and Nana says something that's really interesting. And I want to talk to you about this because I don't know what to think about it. But Nana is by the fire, and she says, I thought I saw the triplets burning in the fire. And Cheryl has to remind her, number one, that it's Dagwood and Juniper, so there's only twins. But my question to you, Postmaster, is is there a triplet? Because she mentioned triplets. We know that she had a second twin son, so there was Clifford and Claudius. But is there a third child?
You know what?
Running amok?
Y'all can leave me out of that one. I did not like Claudius that much. I do not want a triplet. No effing way.
I know. I thought the exact same thing, and I was like, this can't be. I hope that it was just her dementia kicking in, and she didn't know anything.
Let's just say that Nana's mind is going, and hopefully it isn't anything more than that.
Let's just pray that that's the situation. If the writers haven't written it in yet, we're telling you right now, do not do it. Because we do not need another twin storyline or triplet storyline.
No more twin storylines.
Yeah, we're done. So they kind of realize that that, Nana might need a little bit more help. So, this is later on when Tony tells Cheryl, like, something needs to change. So cutting back to, the core four, I think it's the core four, maybe just the three of them because Jughead's away at school. But they're trying to figure out how they're going to raise money for the community center to make that money. And of course, our girls, Betty and Veronica, come up with a fantastic idea to do a car wash to raise some money.
I loved this scene so much.
I know. It is probably my favorite scene of the episode. It was super sexy, slow motion. They have a song. They're singing car wash, and everybody's just having a great time. It's sunny, and there's, water and abs, and people are washing cars. Like, there's nothing. What else can I ask for? It was great.
Well, maybe we could ask for Kevin shirtless next time, since that clearly did not happen.
Anything. Yeah, I would agree with that. So once they finish, one of my favorite lines from Archie is,
oh my God.
he's counting the money. He gets the money from Veronica, and he's like, oh my God, because she says, we made 4, and he's like, $4,000.
More
that's
specific,
amazing.
Veronica. I mean, if only it were $4,000.
If only if it were $4,000. So she's like, no, it's only 400. Like, chill out.
Yeah,
Bless Archie
Veronica.
for thinking that it was $4,000. Like, what's wrong with you?
You really overestimated the amount of money that you could make from this, Veronica.
Yeah, come on, guys. So, and it's funny because she continues to come up with different suggestions, but all of her suggestions are like sexual based. So she's like, maybe we could do a Magic Mike night at, the Bon Nuit or like full Monty.
The only performances at La Bon Nuit, they've only been like Veronica or Josie or all of the females only. So I wouldn't completely rule that out. I don't know about you though.
That's a really good point, actually. I'm like I said, I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. Girl, you gotta figure out another way to make money because clearly the car wash was not the thing, was not the ticket. So they don't really come up with a solution just yet, but they'll figure something out later.
Yeah, they're on it.
So it cuts back to Betty at school, and she gets a phone call from Edgar, and he calls using Alice's phone. So she freaks out. She's like, where's my mom? What's going on? And he says, well, we now know that Alice is a spy, so don't worry about your mom, but everybody's going to die if you don't give me money. He asked for like $250,000. He asked for food and a bus for all of the church. And Betty's like, all right, well, I can't really say much about it, so let me like figure this out. So then it cuts back to Jughead's school. So I like that they kept
this is gonna get good.
This is when it becomes a situation. So first, Brett, I think, is presenting his story.
Yeah.
And, as a circle, everybody's like, oh, good job, good job, good job. And then, Jughead is obviously sitting there silently because he doesn't want to speak. And Brett calls him out and he's like, what do you think then?
Oh boy.
And
well, this was on you, Brett.
I know, seriously. So Jughead doesn't hold back and he says it was pretty typical stuff. It wasn't crazy or amazing. And Brett gets defensive and he comes for his writing too. He's like, well, I don't like your writing either and you suck. And you wanted to ask a question, right?
Yeah, this might not really come into much handy, but I was kind of thinking that, I mean, for sure, maybe Mr. Chippy can still be a little fishy, but something tells me, considering Brett's new behavior on the episode, maybe he might have something to do with Jughead's disappearance or something, or at least some minor role with the flash forwards, but I'm not completely sure.
I would definitely agree. I know that NB and I had kind of theorized something similar, that it has to do with the school and maybe a situation, because we do know that in one of the trailers that were released, as we mentioned last podcast, that Jughead ends up in some sort of coffin or a box that he can't get out of. So maybe it's a hazing situation where he gets, pushed, he gets, kidnapped or something by Brett. And who knows, maybe Brett is the one that is dead and that's the blood that they're kind of washing off. Like, we don't really know where this, spring break flash forward is going to go. And so I would agree with you. I think that could be a potential situation that Brett is definitely involved. And you're right. They definitely position him in the sense that he looks like the villain. He looks like someone that could die. And they are investing a little bit more time into him being a kind of a point of contention. So it'll be interesting if that's the case. Or Donna. I'm just going to throw Donna real quick.
Wait,
and
really?
We'll get to her in a second, but
yeah, well, we'll come back to Donna later. But I'm not sure she might be relevant to the flash forwards thing. But you never know, though. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I always worry about the ones that are like a little bit more unexpected. I was kind of confused that she got any kind of airtime at all this episode. So just because of that alone, I'm wondering, like, what is there that we need to figure out?
That's true,
what's the situation between all three of them? Okay, so moving on to Cheryl at Thistlehouse.
Cue Mr. Muscle, the night nurse.
Oh my gosh, we got so lucky this episode. There's a brand new schmexy night nurse who has been hired by Tony to come in to take care of the house and take care of Nana Rose. And he's this like tall 6'4" god, Greek god. His name is Darius, which is like, you can't get any sexier than that as a name.
I don't think you can. No.
So he basically, is this new character, and Cheryl is still a little bit weary, but she accepts it because she knows that Nana Rose needs the help. But her only rule is you're not allowed to go downstairs. You can't go downstairs into the crypt area. It's forbidden. And
we all
Tony
know
even
why.
says, like, exactly, because there's a dead body down there. But so he's like, okay, cool, sounds good. Yeah. So then it cuts to Jughead, and he's back at school, and he walks in on Marmaduke. I'm gonna call him Marmaduke.
Yeah, you might as well. I think I'll let you take over for this next scene there, because I don't want to. I don't want to accidentally say anything insulting. But what you do need to know is that he basically he is bisexual, and that's all. I'm gonna leave it for that scene.
Yeah. So Marmaduke because he ends up hooking up with Donna, who we just mentioned. She's a part of the writing club or the reading club, and as she's walking out, she tells Jughead again to watch his back around Brett because of what happened in the earlier scene, and she says, don't you don't want to mess with him. And Jughead says, like, I can take him. And she was like, he won't fight you physically, but he will fight you psychologically. So be careful. And yes, back to Marmaduke really quickly. He is a bisexual. I don't know if it's like a big important thing. I guess I could have assumed that because he was with Midge before she died. And then he flipped to Kevin. And I don't know if I have a comment on that.
I forgot about Mitch for a second there.
Yeah. So he swings both ways. That's cool. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that scene. It's a good scene though, guys. Don't get us wrong. It's a good scene.
Yeah. It was cool. So then it cuts back to Edgar calling Betty again, and now she's with Charles because they're kind of in the same area, and she gets a call, and then she says, we can't give you everything that you need, but could you release a hostage for good faith before we, figure out all the things you need? And Edgar says, I hope that you were able to come through for me. In fact, I did actually release a hostage, and that's when Polly ends up right in the office. I have no effing clue where they are. Like, it looks like they're in a basement. Like, it doesn't look like an office to me.
I wish I knew.
Like, how did she get in? Like, did she bust the doors down? Like, I have no idea.
I mean, if Edgar figured out the wire thing, he must have somehow figured out where Charles and the others were. But again,
that's a very good point. Yeah, Edgar's clearly smarter in the situation right now. So, Polly in a poncho shows up. She rolls up in her poncho, and before they can take a few steps forward, she reveals that she has a bomb strapped to her. And I do love that. Personally, I do love that this scene kind of moved pretty quickly. It ended up, resolving within one commercial break. So essentially they see the bomb that she's strapped to, and they know that it's timed, and, she's holding a trigger point. So Charles basically says we have like 1 minute to figure this out. There's 3 wires. One of them is, will detonate it, and the other 2 are duds, or like one of them is the one that they need to really cut. So Betty's just like using her intellect and her like Nancy Drew skills to try to figure this out. And she's like, it's the yellow one. It's the yellow one. So she cuts it, but it's definitely not the yellow one. It is
which wire? Which wire?
Exactly. So she just keeps going, and instead it accelerates it even faster. So now they have like 30 seconds to do it, and there is a bit of tension, but obviously they're not going to blow up Polly and they're not going to blow up Betty.
No.
So,
no.
I wasn't super worried about it, but of course, in true Riverdale, Betty Cooper fashion, she uses her bobby pin to... she pulls it out of her hair.
When has that bobby pin not helped her at all? I mean, like...
Honestly, gets her out of every single situation possible.
Yeah.
I did love it. I was like, all right, I'll take it. This is already a ridiculous storyline, so I'm going to move on with the fact that she was the one that was able to, undetonate this bomb with a bobby pin. All right, I'll take it. What did you think of that situation?
You know what? It was fine, actually. Anything to get that scene out of the way before the madness continued.
Right, because it does get crazier. Like somehow it gets even weirder. So going back to the reading class, we have our man, Mr. Chippy, telling the whole class saying, I'm going to give you guys an assignment. You guys have to sit in this test format, and I'll give you the entire story except for the ending, and you have to finish the story with your ending. The best story is going to win. And so clearly that's kind of Jughead's current rivalry and what he's going to be doing this episode. And then it cuts back to Monroe and Archie, and Monroe is like very, very adamant. Like he's like, we need to do this right now.
Oh, poor Monroe.
He needs to get the kids out because apparently there was some sort of weird drug bust, and there were people being recruited. The kids were being recruited at the arcade, and he mentioned someone named Dodger, who is recruiting the kids outside of the arcade to deal the drugs and do all the bad stuff. And I don't know if you know this reference, but Dodger is also a character from a very classic Charles Dickens book, Oliver Twist.
I actually did not know that. No.
Yeah. So Dodger
are the two characters similar? I'm guessing, like luring kids into their damn businesses or something.
Exactly. So Dodger in the books, Dodger in the book he's a pickpocket. He's a bit of like a street thief, and Oliver Twist becomes one of the many orphans that Dodger kind of adopts under his wing to be like bad kids. And then Oliver obviously is the one that gets away, and he ends up getting adopted at the very end of it. Spoiler alert, but the book is like 500 years old, so get over it. So Dodger is going to probably be that character, the one who is kind of influencing the kids. He's definitely going to be the villain, I think, for Archie this season.
Oh, he has to be, yeah. He was actually cast, sorry if you don't mind, we actually found out that, Archie's line of nemesis, it isn't over yet. He seriously, though, he has way too many enemies. I can't even remember them all.
I know. He just can't, like, one's down, and then they got, like, 3 more pop up, so... Clearly, Dodger is now the new Hiram, I guess, of the season.
Exactly. So, as you'll find out, unfortunately, this isn't going to be the only episode for Dodger. 100%. I think he might actually maybe will be back in the next episode, but I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe we'll come back to that later.
For sure. So at this point, Archie's like... So, because Monroe's like, we need to stop this. We need to get them out of there. And Archie says, we need to do something about this, but I don't want you to be involved because Monroe has a criminal record. And if he gets caught doing something criminally, he will go back to jail. So Archie says, don't help. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So now Archie is going to do something stupid. So,
you know what? Yeah, good for Archie. I actually thought he was going to agree with Monroe for a minute there. I mean, he doesn't always make the best decisions, so...
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, he could have gotten himself into some serious shit this episode, but he didn't. So
yeah.
Anyway, I mean, he probably will later. Anyways, moving on, we'll talk about Polly and Betty again. So it cuts back to that scene. Polly talks to Betty. She basically says, like, sorry about everything.
Yeah, you're going to need a lot more sorries than that, Polly.
I agree. And that's the thing with Polly's character. We can talk to her. Let's talk about her really, really quickly because we don't see her for the rest of the episode. She's not helpful whatsoever.
No.
Do you believe her? Do you think that she's evil? Like, what do you think of her current scenario and her situation?
Oh boy. I would say
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, maybe not evil because she didn't seem that willing to like have a bomb strapped on her and to just go to the FBI thing. But at the same time, and I apologize if this makes me sound heartless in some sort of way, but I actually kind of wish that maybe somehow they could have maybe not have killed the character off, but at least written her out for a while because I don't know what to do with her anymore. I really don't.
I would agree with you. I would be just as heartless or even more so ruthless and say that they could have just killed her off this episode and just been done with it. Because at least we would have been like, oh, that's too bad. The problem is because we don't care about her anymore. It wouldn't have mattered if she died or not. If she blew up, we would have been like, oh, that's too bad. Polly's dead. But she's just kind of lingering in the back corner, and I don't know what her purpose is anymore. No. I don't know if she's, we do know that originally the actress left the show to pursue another acting role, but I think that show is now complete. So Polly's now can come back into the fold. She does have, a brother-in-law, or I guess a half-brother as well.
Yeah, that's true. I guess they can't leave Polly out with Charles in the picture, so I guess they have to include her somehow.
Exactly. Like, she's still a sister, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Cooper family because now it looks like there's like 4 of them. Alice is coming back. Like, they don't have a home. So it'll be interesting to see what she decides to do. She'll probably just end up going back to San Francisco or wherever the hell she was. Anyway, so Polly basically says Edgar is got this plan. He wants everybody to die. He's going to use a bus to like fly off a cliff or something like that. Like, it's
something
just
like that.
Yeah, it's
basically drive the bus off of a cliff, and then as we find out later, Betty and Alice are going to be like tied at the front.
Yes, and Alice is the one that explains the story, but basically Polly at this moment in time says everyone's going to die. That's kind of like his purpose and his goal right now. So you guys better keep moving.
Yeah.
So then it cuts back to Veronica and Betty's trying to figure out what to do with this money situation because she also has a deficit. She needs to come up with $250,000 for Edgar. So it's funny because Veronica kind of just like turns to the corner and she's like, does it have to be money or like can it be something else? And so she looks at this collection of the Glamourget eggs and she's like, you can use these. This is $250,000. They're worth a lot of money. And Betty's like, okay, cool, thanks. What did you think of the fact that they brought the Glamourget eggs back into the storyline?
You know what? No comment. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
And that's the thing. It's funny that you say no comment because I think it's one of those things where at this point in time, there were so many ridiculous things that they had added into the story that I just feel like I need to laugh at the fact that they tried to make them more secondary and be like, don't worry, this was for a reason. Like,
you know what? I can't blame you for thinking that. I can see where you're going on that.
Yeah. So whatever. So she takes the Glamourget eggs. Fine. Cool. And then she goes to Betty goes to Tony.
Yeah.
And she now has to ask Tony for all of these passports, these fake passports, because Tony can hook her up. So she's like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And now she goes to Miss Bell, who is the secretary of the school, and she asks about, getting something off of a bus. And Betty's like, Miss Bell says, the buses are closed now. We're not running them anymore. The person who's using it is gone. And Betty's like, okay, cool. So obviously she breaks in, probably uses her bobby pin to start the car.
I mean, why wouldn't she? I mean, I kind of wish they had showed like some footage of that even for a second, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'm like, timing, cool, fine. So she steals a bus and then she goes to the compound. And as she's leaving, Edgar reappears. And he says, he has this whole moment with Betty. He's like, I wish that you were more, aware of yourself because we would have asked you to, come up and be a part of the congregation.
Oh, yeah, that old junk again.
Exactly. And at that moment, that's when Evelyn comes up behind her and knocks her out. Just as a shout out to us, when we first watched the trailer, we were right. It was Evelyn all the way back then when we did the reaction video for the very first trailer that we got, because we do see Betty get knocked out by somebody, and it was Evelyn. So they take her, the entire congregation goes back inside. Then it cuts back to the boarding school. So they're back there, and the whole class, including Jughead, is writing for this contest, and Brett is basically pushing way too many buttons. He's being extremely aggressive.
Too many personal boundaries there.
Way too many personal boundaries. So he basically calls his mom a drug dealer, which technically she is.
No, I mean, it's true, but at the same time, those are the things we think in our heads, but don't say out loud, genius.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. So he's coming for Jughead the entire time. He's like, you're a loser. I wouldn't understand criminals because none of my family are criminals. Your sisters are like a budding criminal. He just rags on his entire family and his upbringing. And that's when Jughead hits his boiling point, and he grabs Brett and he shoves him over a desk, and he warns him. He doesn't beat him up, but he definitely strongly warns him, and everybody in the class is like, oh shit, you probably shouldn't have done that. Something's gonna happen now.
Damn. And I actually thought he was gonna hit him there if it wasn't for Stonewall Prep's no violence tolerance thing or whatever. But
yes,
yeah,
that's true. I do have to applaud Jughead for keeping his cool, because I feel like if Archie was in that situation, he probably would have lost his mind.
Better Jughead than Archie.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that Jughead kind of maintained himself. And one of the best things that he says is, why don't you try writing a compelling drama instead of starting it? And
that was a really good line.
Yeah, I feel like I need that on a t-shirt or something. I feel like it's a very, very good way to look at life sometimes. Why don't you, think of something before you start shit. So
that's a pretty good idea, actually, J-Lag.
Right. So then it cuts to Veronica's place. It's back in the Pembroke, and she hears some classical music playing, and so she walks in and she's like, is Smithers here? And it's not Smithers. It turns out that Daddy's home.
Oh boy. Yeah. I'm not even surprised anymore. This is still his own jail anyway.
Yeah. So exactly. And that's what he kind of explains. She's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And he's like, I own the jail. I can come and go as I please. It's all basically a joke. I don't give it doesn't matter. And so he goes on to explain that he found out that she is planning to change her name to Gomez. And she just goes in on him. She was like, that name is trash, and I would rather remove it from my name. It's it's dirty. And he tells a little story.
Oh yeah,
which I thought was very interesting. He says that when he was younger, he was named Jaime Luna, which I thought was kind of funny. Not that I'm knocking anybody who's named Jaime Luna out there, but I know now why he changed it to Hiram Lodge.
No, yeah, clearly, of course, yeah. What kind of a name is Jaime Luna's a good name, but not exactly one to strike fear in people's eyes. So no wonder he changed it to Lodge.
Definitely not. So he does tell the story. He's like, I changed my name. I made my own name, but he's like, I remember that my dad was so infuriated when he found out that I was planning to change my name, and now I understand the same frustration because you want to change your name now. And so he's like, how dare you change it, this and this. And he finishes it off by saying, changing the name won't wash away the blood and the sins and the family legacy.
This is painfully so. That's actually a good point there. I mean, it's not like changing the name's actually going to do any good. I mean, exactly. If last week's case, if the paparazzi were able to get around to Veronica's partial involvement in Hiram's crimes, then who says that Veronica's name change is not going to backfire?
Exactly. Agreed. So cutting back to Archie and Mary at home, she talks to Archie and she was like, do you want to come back to Chicago with me?
No,
I feel like you need to come back.
I did not like Mary Andrews in that moment. I thought she would have been a little more supportive for Archie and the community project, but again, when you think about it, this is real life. I mean, it's not that easy for something, and you never know with these businesses. So fine, but Mary, you need to be a little more supportive to Archie. You really do.
See, the one thing that I will say is I'm surprised that they even gave her this angle in this episode. I thought that she was just going to come in and be like the doting mom and like, you know, support him and move to Riverdale. But it seems like they wanted to maintain this idea that she was eventually going to be bringing him back to Chicago with her, and you know, she was just kind of, I guess, getting him ready to go, or like there was not even a mention that she was going to be leaving. And I'm like, if she leaves, like, is he going to be homeless, or
hold on, obviously they wouldn't do that because who else is going to parent Archie? I mean, who else?
Exactly. And that's the thing. I was like, I wasn't really sure where the whole Chicago conversation even came up, because it was never, I know that she mentioned it like seasons ago when Fred was still alive, but now that he's dead, like, why are you taking him away from all of his friends and his family? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So,
but to be fair, Mary's like actually concerned for Archie there, and
it's true.
I guess she's a little more strict. Fred was, I guess, more supportive of Archie and his stuff. Mary being a little more realistic, so it's fine.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah.
So he obviously says, absolutely not. I can't leave what I want to do. And, you know, I do want to build this community center. And Mary's like, well, I guess I agree to disagree. And because of that conversation, Archie decides to leave and go and find the criminal.
And there goes his moral sense.
Exactly. The funny thing is, you know, literally Mary in one sentence is saying, and I love that you said that, you know, you were a little disappointed in her. However, she's like, I don't want you to stay here because you're going to get into danger. And what does he do? He climbs out a window with a bat and confronts a bunch of gangsters. So yeah, she does have a good point.
She does there on that department, especially with the crime in Riverdale. That never really goes away anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always going to be there in that town because they need some conflict. So he leaves and he ends up at the arcade, which we see the outside of the arcade, and he sees a bunch of, you know, I guess gangsters in front, and they are all being led by the main guy, Dodger, and he comes up to them and he's holding a bat and he's got a mask on his face, and he says, I want all of you guys to like get out of Riverdale.
This is just reminding me of Arrow, like a Vigilante parody or something.
Yes, it's so true. And I like, there's a lot of things that I have to say about this. One of them being the fact that it was so Vigilante, and obviously we've already done the Red Circle situation.
Yeah, I've had enough about that.
Me too, and I wonder why they even brought that back into the storyline. I hope it means something later on.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of was a little afraid that this was going to happen, because I remember in the Comic-Con trailer, I think Archie and Veronica were sort of talking about something similar. Veronica was like, what, are you going to be a full superhero now? And Archie's like, nah, but I'll need a mask. Right. So unfortunately, that gave me that suspicion. And speaking of mask, I don't know what the heck Archie was thinking with that mask, because I could still clearly see him. It's even worse than yeah, but it's even worse than Oliver Queen's mask. I mean, that was barely invisible at all. So what the hell, Archie?
It's so funny. That's very true. So, so he basically like tries to take on. So even Dodger says, he's like, what are you going to do? Beat us up with your one bat? There's 5 of us and 1 of you. And he's like, I'll take my odds. And then he beats them up, and then it cuts to, like, and we never get to see it.
We never do. But you know what? He beat up a bear last season. This might be nothing. I'm just going to accept it at this point.
And that's the thing. I wanted to just say, like, okay, I guess we're going to run with this. We're just going to accept that that's the reality of Archie. He's suddenly like superhuman strength. Like he's like a ninja. Like he can kill everybody in 1 second. But I was like, it's a little, considering the fights that we have seen. Yes, super unrealistic. He could have gotten killed like in this moment and been done. You know what I mean? So I feel like it felt like a weird placement of the situation, and the fact that he got away with it relatively unscathed and with a bag of money, which we'll talk about in a second.
Well, not exactly unscathed. I mean, we did see like some marks on him at least. So
like a little shiner, but I feel like he's gotten beaten up in worse, like, you know, in more easy scenarios. So that's why I was like, how did you get away from 5 people? Like, that's a little much.
Yeah. Anyway, did Archie even tell Mary about what happened afterwards? Because like in the next scene, Mary, she's clearly unaware of Archie sneaking out. I mean, like she should have learned from Fred going back to season 1.
So as you remember, Archie was he ends up sleeping, I think, at the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Because this is when Veronica goes and visits the Angie's residence, and she says, "Here's money. I want to give it to Archie. Like he's not going to take it from me, but I want to give it to you so you can take it for him." And Veronica essentially, I think this is the moment where Veronica and Mary, who honestly, like, haven't had a lot of scenes together, so I was glad that they put them together. And they're talking about Archie and how, you know, he really embodies like hope and faith, and you know, in a time where Veronica is really going through some shit with her own family, I think that she definitely says, like, I'm investing in Archie. I'm not investing in a building. I believe in your son, and you should too. And that's kind of what I think really changes Mary's mind by the end of the episode, which I really liked. But I was going to ask you, what do you think? Actually, I'll ask that later, because they do have a scene a little bit later. So anyway, let's move on to Cheryl. And
so we can just skip that one. She just looks at Jason and she's like, I don't remember leaving you there last night. Who the hell did this?
She starts to freak out a little bit. We'll get back to her in a second. So it shows Archie and Monroe walks into the boxing ring, or the boxing center. What do you call that? Do you call it a boxing?
I don't know.
Like arena?
Tomato.
Tomato, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So Archie was sleeping on the couch. He wakes up and Monroe's like, "What happened to you?" And he's like, "I beat up 5 people. They're never going to find us because I was wearing a mask. We're good." And I'm like, every single sentence that he was saying, I was like, problem. And on top of the fact that he beat 5 literal gangsters.
And what is he, a ninja?
With his like super strength ninja like abilities, he also stole all of their money. And I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a problem. So this is when Monroe asks Archie, you know, like, what do we do? Like, you can't just use this money, it's dirty, you need to get it cleaned. Do you think that Veronica can help us out? And we'll talk about that in a second, because I do have a lot of things to say about that as well. So it cuts all the way back to school, Jughead school. And it turns out that our girl Donna, surprise, surprise, is the actual winner of the writing competition. And Jughead and Brett are tied for last place. And this is what I mean, like, Postmaster, is there must be something with her. We do get like a very extended long look from her at some point. It's not like a conniving or evil look, but it's just like a lot more focus on her. So I'm wondering if she could either be a victim, or maybe she's somebody that we can't trust. Like, I don't know yet, but there must be a reason why we've had her introduced into this storyline, and it's not just because, you know, Marmaduke is hooking up with her. There's
that's
definitely
true.
something more to her.
I guess there has to be a bigger purpose with her.
I agree. So Jughead and Brett obviously are last place. Clearly their emotions got to them, and that's why they wrote a shitty story. But cutting back to what is really like important, I don't know if I could say important, but the most high stakes storyline.
Getting closer to getting this bull crap out of the way at long last.
Yeah.
So
that's
Betty
a
and
good way
Alice,
to look at it.
So Betty and Alice, they're tied up in a hotel room. And oh my god, I can't even believe this scene. So again, Alice explains to Betty the entire plan. You already know what that is already, the whole driving the farmies off of the cliff. And Edgar is going to fly away in a stinking rocket, apparently, that he's been building. Okay, because apparently harvesting organs isn't enough. I don't get this anymore.
I thought it was totally insane. When she said rocket, I was like, does she mean like a real rocket? Does she mean like a rocket in his mind? And when we saw the actual rocket, I was like, oh my god, it's a real rocket. Like, she wasn't joking around. So when they find this out from Evelyn, or no, sorry, they don't find this out from Evelyn.
No.
Alice is the one that tells her this whole situation. They're like, okay, let's figure this out. We're gonna get out of here. So let's cut back quickly to Cheryl's place, Thistle House, and this is when she freaks out on Darius. So Darius is like,
bye Darius.
Like, yeah, poor guy. So we he basically says that there's rodents in Cheryl's house and they need to do a full fumigation, and you know, we need to go into the basement and this and this. And as soon as she finds out that Darius was even like mentioning the basement, Cheryl loses her mind and she's like, how dare you go down there? I told you not to go down there. You are fired. And my question to you is, so Darius gets fired, but my question is, why would they bring this adorable, handsome man into this situation and then take him away from us?
You know what? He has to come back at some point. There has
I hope
to be
so.
He has to come back. I don't know how he's going to come back. Maybe Tony's just going to like secretly hire the poor dude again. But
yeah, exactly. I don't know, but hopefully he comes back. We'll see.
Yeah.
Then this is it cuts back to the whole farming storyline. Evelyn walks into the room and she's like, okay, ladies, it's time to go. But clearly they've broken out of their chairs. Betty decides to knock Evelyn out. And this is also one of my favorite moments because it's such a badass moment.
This was awesome.
Yeah. So Betty and, you know, Alice are like, you know, walking down the hallway. They're like, yeah, we like kick some ass. They steal her gun. There's a really cool moment where, you know, Betty like, you know, takes out the, you know, all the bullets and she like flips it back into the gun in slow motion. She's wearing like a fun little beret. I was living for it. It was so much fun to watch.
Living in the moment, J-Lang.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how they kind of get out. But I was like, how are they going to get out of this? Like everybody knows who Alice is. Everybody knows who Betty is. So the later scene did kind of confuse me, but anyway,
they would show other stuff related to the farm, but yet they don't show much of the fighting. They don't show much of the escaping in this episode. Right. I wish I knew why they did that.
Yeah, same. I guess I feel like it's a timing thing. So anyway, We'll cut back to Veronica and Archie, and they're at the Bon Nuit, and Archie basically says, like, is there anything that you can do with this dirty money? And Veronica tells him straight up, like, you can't do anything with this money. This is blood money. It is dirty. You cannot, you should just burn it. And again, Veronica says, like, I can help you. And she urges Archie to kind of take the help because she says something really interesting, and she says, I need you. Like, I need you to be that person, that rock, that good person in my life. And I wanted to ask you now, since we're here.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Veronica and Archie and their relationship right now? Like, what do you think about their dynamic, how she's leaning so heavily on Archie? I know that she's done it in the past, but it sounds like she needs it even more this episode. What did you think?
Well, tough to say. I mean, I guess maybe she would kind of need it more. I mean, first of all, dynamic-wise, of course, Veronica and Archie, they definitely have a good thing going. I really do love the VARCHIE ship, one of my favorite ships in the show. Right. But at the same time, doesn't Veronica have Betty as her bestie or anyone else, really? I mean, Archie isn't the only person that can probably cheer her up. So
I agree.
I don't know.
I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like it's in the writing. It sounds like they're really pushing them so hard together that I'm just worried that they're setting them up for a potential issue in the future, in the near future even.
Well, they did have some drama last season anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like we've been saying, NB and I, even though it's an unpopular conversation, they need to shake up the ships a little bit. They need to, you know, change it up to make us feel like there is a change in the dynamic, because her relying so heavily on Archie, as much as I think that that's something that you should do when you're in a relationship and you have a boyfriend who you want support from, they're definitely making it an obvious situation that she is desperate for his help and desperate for who he is, and maintaining that symbolic hope and goodness, that I'm wondering where that's going to go. Like, is he now that he has his dirty money, is he the one that's going to corrupt her and make her do bad things? And then is she going to realize
no. Hell no. That cannot happen. That cannot happen at all. No.
It'll be weird. But because we don't go back to it, I do want to know what your thoughts are on this dirty money, because there can't be a reason why they mentioned it without bringing it back up. Like, they're definitely going to have to bring up this dirty money and the fact that Archie decided to steal it like a dum-dum.
Yeah, but how would they bring that money back up? I mean, they're not just going to keep it and let Dodger steal it back or something, are they? Like, because that's the only thing I can think of.
That's probably, you're probably exactly right. That's probably exactly what's going to happen. He's probably going to say, I'm going to give me my money back, and either Archie's gonna burn it or he's gonna say like, no, you can't have this money. So that will likely be the scenario. So yeah, stay tuned for this fake money that, you know, Archie stole, because he's, I don't know why, but anyway. Let's cut back to Alice and Betty. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the farm story.
Yes.
So right away, they're trying to get people on the bus. They're trying to like make it seem like it's like, you know, a business as usual. Just, you know, get everybody on the bus as it was planned. As they're doing this, the one thing that we do notice is Fangs sees Betty, and he like he's about to scream traitor and call her out. And she knocks him out, and she's like,
that was still good to see, though. Badass Betty. That was really nice. He deserved it, honestly.
He deserved it. He deserves all the hate that he's going to be getting, because I don't know what they're doing with Fangs' character, but they are destroying it probably just as poorly as they did to Kevin's character. And I'm a little disappointed, because I do love the actor. I think he's a cutie. So I'm just sad that he's like still brainwashed and annoying.
But you know what? Maybe he'll be on the path to redemption soon enough. I mean, the farm is donezo as of this episode, so maybe he'll be back to normal eventually. Or maybe he'll be killed off.
I definitely am hopeful, because they wouldn't have just brought him in for no reason. But at the same time, I'm like, Fangs, just go away at this point. Like, nobody needs you. You're still brainwashed because you're a dummy. And like, the difference between him and Kevin is we had enough, you know, backstory from Kevin to care that he can come back into the fold. Whereas with Fangs, he was already like a C-list character. So it's hard for us to get behind a character that's doing bad things when we already weren't really rooting for him from the get-go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean on that.
So we'll see what they do with Fangs, if he even is a part of the show anymore. Like, we don't even know. Clearly, we know that they like get rid of full characters like Josie and the Pussycats, which we don't want to talk about anymore. But NB's not here, so I can just say it real quickly. But
NB, anyway, is she gonna get it? Is she gonna give it to you next week for saying that sort of thing?
Maybe she might. Anyway, so Fangs gets knocked out. Alice, at that moment, she sees Edgar from like the stairwell, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go after Edgar, and you deal with the situation down here. So Betty at this point calls Charles, and she was like, we need to, get these guys out of here. And Charles is like, don't worry. We got like all these armed guards and all these people are coming. And I was like, hey, why couldn't you just, do this without having to get Betty to come in by herself? Like, I didn't understand why he waited so long to bring in his people. Like, he's an FBI agent.
I mean, I'm not questioning it. This is Riverdale we're talking
honestly,
about
like,
here.
You're right. I shouldn't question it. I've just had one quick bitch moment. But anyway, that's what happens.
No, it's fine. No, it's understandable. Like, I mean, you would think Charles would be more competent than that.
Exactly. So anyway, so Alice goes after Edgar, and really quickly we do see I know that you mentioned it in the notes, but it's the
I really wish they didn't show that part. I really wish they didn't show that, honestly.
Why did you think that?
I mean it's tough to say. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just thought that it wasn't as important of a scene as what could have been shown. Plus, not that I faint from like blood or bandaging or anything, but I don't really think we needed to see Waldo's finger cut off.
Right.
In that moment. I mean, at least he didn't seem as brainwashed, because he did kind of regret his actions as the farm. Yes. And as Betty's saying, this is his last moment of redemption. So in that sense, fine. But I don't know, honestly. This gave me mixed feelings, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think what we are seeing in the scene are the characters that will likely be coming back into the fold, and he does get a bit of redemption. So if he does accomplish this properly and, you know, he's walking around with his fingers cut off, he can potentially be the principal again once Mr. Honey disappears, because I'm sure.
I mean, can he?
I'm sure.
I mean, we all know Waldo wasn't that useful.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. But he is a classic character, so we'll see.
Yeah, true. Maybe they could at least bring him back somehow. Maybe not as principal, but they've got to.
Right. So then we see Alice, and she chases Edgar all the way up to the rooftop. And this is when she sees his crazy at his ultimate level. So he is wearing what I can only describe as an Evel Knievel, like, outfit.
It actually was Evel Knievel. I was reading about this. The whole rocket thing, and partially his costume too. It was based on Knievel's, what was it? That jump over Snake River Canyon or something? I don't remember. I mean, in the actual stunt for Knievel, it was more of a motorcycle that looked like a rocket, but still, it was an interesting reference there that I ended up finding about a little while after the episode aired. So I guess fine. It's a good one. It's a good enough reference.
I mean, yeah, I think that, you know, Evel Knievel's, he's always been iconic in the sense that he was like this crazy stuntman, and he was such an extremist. So I understand why they gave Edgar that look and that feel. They also use it in a Kanye West music video, Touch the Sky, which we all know how Kanye has been in the last couple of years. So it's definitely that like out of this world mindset kind of, you know, extremist situation. So as much as I was like, what the F is happening? Because why are they giving him a rocket? I was also like, this feels like an appropriate way to end this crazy ass storyline.
You know what? Yeah, it does.
You know? So they have a little bit of a standoff. Edgar kind of talks to her for a second, and then he's about to pull out his own gun to shoot her. And this is when Alice finally ends the storyline by shooting Edgar dead. He's
Victory!
Dead. We can all celebrate and pop some champagne.
Oh, such a huge weight off of my shoulders.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lie.
Envy's going to come back, and she's going to be so happy that it's over. I'm so excited for her to find out that it's all done.
Yay.
But
yes.
I think we're just very happy that it's over. So moving back to kind of the conclusion of the entire episode. So this is Mary, and she's visiting Archie at the boxing ring. And this is when she tells him the whole story. She says, listen, I'm going to stay in Riverdale. I'm going to, you know, like, I'm going to stay here indefinitely. So this is when she officially becomes a season regular, I guess. Like, this is like her official announcement to say, I'm going to be here for as long as they pay me. So she also says that she's going to help him with the community center. She says, I'm going to make sure that the legal side of things is all ready to go and good to go, because I know that that's not something that he wants to deal with. So yeah, I think that is how that whole scene ends. I was really happy the way that it all concluded.
Pretty good redemption there for Mary. Although you might have been thinking about this in the notes, J-Lag. Did you think she was actually going to leave Archie for good?
And that's what I mean. I feel like, was she actually considering leaving him by himself in Riverdale, or was she always going to consider saying, you don't have a choice, you're underage, and you can't stay here anymore, you're going to come back with me to Chicago? Like, was that her whole...
It's really tough to say, but I don't
know. So that happens. It's a cute little moment, and then it cuts back to Veronica and Hiram, and she visits him in jail, and she has a little announcement to make. So she decides, she says to Hiram that she's going to now change her name to Veronica Luna. What did you think of this situation?
I know we've been saying this all throughout the podcast, but I'm just going to say it again. So many damn name changes today.
I know. It's actually ridiculous.
But you know what? It's a really good change, I guess. Especially if it pisses Hiram off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's basically her only goal. She's like, I'm going to change it so I can piss your ass off.
But seriously, though, it does sound good. Veronica Luna. I mean, maybe not much, but
I'm
still.
Down. I'm into it. It's cute. I'm into it. And she also says, additionally, I'm going to be changing all the locks. I'm going to be installing alarms at the Pembroke so you can never come home.
And she's going to be apparently sleeping with a taser under her pillow. And you better believe she'll use it.
So she's ready to go.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to Cheryl visiting Jason again, but this time she sees something moving around in his stomach, and she sees a rat literally emerge from his stomach, and then she starts screaming.
Oh, that's just, wow.
So disgusting. I was like, ugh. And because of the scream, Tony comes down the stairs. I will say, I like.
You know what? It's about time. Tony had to discover it at some point.
100%, it's about time. I just wish that they gave us a little bit more higher stakes. I wish that they cut to Tony being like, "What was that? I need to go downstairs," and maybe edited it in a way that made us feel like it was going to be this buildup of a moment.
True,
instead,
but maybe
it was like,
sorry, go on.
Like instead, it was like she's like, and then. Like Tony just comes in and she's like, "Oh, you're here. Oh my God, there's a dead body." Like it was very much like it could, this is just me being nitpicky, but I think that it could have been definitely edited in a way that would have made it feel, because they've been building up for the past 3 episodes.
That's true, yeah.
And I was like, okay, so how is she going to find out? When is she going to find out?
But in all seriousness, maybe the reason they didn't edit it like that is because they just wanted us to make us feel unexpected that Tony would just barge in and somehow, I don't know.
This is, again, guys, this is just me being nitpicky.
No. I respect your opinion, J-Lag.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let's cut back to the prep school.
Oh,
and
no. Poor
this
Moose.
is when we find out about, Brett's crazy psychological warfare that, Donna had mentioned. And he essentially writes a article about Moose. And I guess, I don't know, maybe he's changing his name back to Moose by the end of this episode, because he exposes him for everything. And he's like, his dad was the fake, Black Hood, and this is what's happening, and this is who he is. And so now Moose's whole life is now back in shambles. Everybody's
I honestly don't know what Moose is going to do. Is he going to stay at the thing? Is he just going to go elsewhere and hopefully maybe start his life over again? But
right.
Yeah. I mean, Jughead and Moose, they hit it off so well at the beginning of the episode, though. I mean,
yeah.
It's tough to say.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they fit him in. Is he going to stay in the prep school as a support to Jughead? We'll see. Yeah. And then the final scene is Jughead and Betty back at the Cooper residence, and she's just kind of giving him the updates, like everybody's good, everybody's back at the the farmies are now released and everybody's happy. Her Alice is happy, whatever. And of course, when you say that everything's going perfectly and we're all good, that's the famous last words. And
it just reminds me of Cheryl again when she said earlier in the beginning of the episode, "We're doing just fine," and then cue Nana Rose's screams.
It's so true.
But seriously, so at the end of the episode, the doorbell rings and there's this VHS in a bag or something that's apparently titled Famous Last Words. And I guess that's going to come into next week's episode. Maybe these videotapes will be popping up all over the town or something.
So I don't know if it's what is said on the tape it says famous last words, or if it's
I think
just
I remember
Jughead
saying that when he was looking at the tape.
So he does say famous last words, but I think it's just because right before that Betty had said we're good, we're perfect. Anyway,
never mind.
Maybe it is. Who knows? We'll see.
You know what? You might be right on that one, actually, Jay. True. Again, like we were saying earlier, famous last words.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how that kind of plays out, but we don't get to see what's on the tape. But we all know, based on how we found out how Jason died through a video, that probably nothing good is on this VHS tape.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Speaking of videotapes, before we go on, is it just me and this actually just popped into me now, not when I was watching the end there, but did that give you some sort of a 13 Reasons Why vibe, at least for season 1?
Ooh, love that idea, actually. That's a very good point. I mean, VHS is very 1980s, 1990s to me. So it would be interesting to see if they kind of go in that direction.
You never know.
But I don't know. That's a great point.
You never know. Yeah.
We'll see. All right. I think we're ready to get into our recap roundups.
Let's do it.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
All right. So what was your best moment?
You know what? I think my best moment would have to be Jughead's comeback against Red, especially with the whole why don't you write a drama, not start one. I thought that was a really powerful moment for me.
For sure. My best moment is gonna go to the car wash because that was fun and cute and everybody was sexy and I was living for it. So I'm down for that.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
Well, I did have 3 at first. One of them was seeing Waldo's cut off bloody finger, but then the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking that's not really surprising. Whatever, we knew the farm was cutting them off. So I think my WTF moment would have to be either the whole Nana Rose triplets in the fire or seeing Polly in that poncho thing with the bomb reveal. One of the two.
Really quickly, since I know that we already mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the triplets in the fire is definitely something that we should keep an eye on. I would be very interested to see if that becomes another storyline, because if it is, we might be signing off indefinitely.
Oh, no, don't do that.
My WTF moment. My WTF moment is going to I'm the same. I had a couple. The first one being Archie beating up 5 people because I was like, what the F? Like, are you actually telling me that he was able to successfully kick 5 people's asses with 1 bat? Like, come on. And also, I think it was hilarious that we got a reveal of Hiram's real name being Jaime Luna.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that was also a WTF moment for me. As well was, Edgar deciding to fly in a rocket.
Oh, boy, yeah.
There were a lot of WTF moments this episode for sure.
MVP.
What was your MVP?
You know what? My MVP, I think it would have to go to Alice, because this episode really served as a good redemption for her.
Yeah, I agree. I think that considering where we left Alice's character off last season, I'm glad to see her back on screen. I'm glad that she's not crazy anymore. I'm glad that she was an informant this entire time. I'm ready to have her back for sure.
Me too.
My MVP is going to be Archie. Not sure why I wrote that down, actually, to be honest, but
let's just ignore the part where he beats up 5 people and we'll call that.
Exactly. Especially since that was my WTF moment. But it probably does have to do with the fact that, I am proud of him outside of the fact that he beat up those guys and is about to start probably a lot of drama. I will give him the fact that he is kind of on the straight and narrow in the sense that he wants to build a community center. I think that's really cool that his character is trying to move towards something that's very positive for the community.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a moment that I know that, Fred would be really proud of. So I'm like, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with his character. I don't think that they're going to take him to like this extreme level because we've already seen that. So maybe we'll get something nicer this season.
LVP.
Who's your LVP?
Oh, definitely Fangs. 100%.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. He was a waste character this episode. So disappointed that he betrayed everybody again. So yeah, I would agree with you. Because mine was also Fangs / the other person that I had on my list of LVPs is Charles.
Oh, yeah.
Because
really?
To be completely honest, what did Charles do this entire time? Really honestly name one thing that he was actually successful in doing.
I mean,
really, outside of giving access to Betty to figure out everything else, he didn't do anything so far.
Well, he did do a couple of things at least. I mean, he sort of guided. I mean, he is at least smart enough to be in the FBI, but at the same time, I can't really argue with you on that. Charles wasn't exactly as useful as Betty in that storyline.
Betty killed it. Charles out here doing nothing. I'm like, all right, well, if you're gonna be a pretty face, at least take her shirt off. Come on.
Oh, actually, that might be something. Do you think we'll see Charles shirtless at some point?
Maybe. I'm down.
You can't rule it out.
Exactly.
The best line.
What was your best line?
Oh my God. I have 2 actually. One of them was Veronica when she was saying, I believe in Archie and he makes me want to believe in myself. And then the other one, again, I mentioned it in Best Moment. Going back to that, why don't you write a compelling drama instead of starting one line?
Yeah, really good line. I love that line. I'm going to take the line that Veronica says to Hiram where she says, I've never taken out the trash, Daddy, but I know when something's rotten.
Oh,
and I'm
yeah, true.
She says 2 things in that sentence. 1, she's never taken out the trash in her life. And 2, that she knows that things are rotten. I just thought it was I just thought it was funny writing. I'll give them that. But she always gets these randomly complex lines, so it was just funny to listen to. That is our episode. Really quickly before we finish this all off, really quick announcement. Again, I'm going to tell you guys about the contest that's going on right now. If you leave a review for us at Recap Rewind on iTunes, you'll enter into this contest for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and a pop socket. And again, to enter, all you need to do is rate and comment on our iTunes page and you'll be entered in the draw. The contest is going to end on December 11th, so you have a bit of time, but get in there as quickly as you can. And once we get your name in there, we're going to draw on the 11th and call a winner. And also, I would like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, the Rewinder Squad, White. We have our Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann, Sarge, Serena, Slay, Kate, and Jessica, and our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Grace. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. If you join, you'll get access to all things Recap Rewind, exclusive contests, content, and updates. And finally, thank you so much to Postmaster Radio.
Aw, thanks again.
Before we finish off, how can people reach you on your socials and how can they get to your podcast?
Of course, yeah. So for any of you guys that need to catch up on my Rethinking Riverdale podcasts, you can find them on Spreaker and definitely Spotify as well. And for the socials, well, you know, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. In fact, I will be dropping another new Rethinking Riverdale podcast this coming Friday on Spreaker and Spotify, so can't wait.
Awesome. And also, make sure that you guys are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. And you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Bye.